Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm coming to you with another book review, and this time we are looking at Homeland, part of the Dark Elf Trilogy by R.A. Salvatore, the first book chronologically and in reading order in the Legend of Drizzt story. And wow. That's what I want to say is wow. I picked up these books, these R.A. Salvatore books, really not knowing what to expect. My only experience with Salvatore prior to these had been in things like Kingdoms of Amalur, which, while a good game, I found the story and the world to be a little bit on the generic side, and so I wasn't really sure what to expect with a whole book series written by the man. But I kept hearing people say, check these books out, check these books out, check these books out, and I said, you know what? Screw it. I know a bit about Dungeons and Dragons. I've played it a few times, and a couple of my old roommates and friends back in college were massive fans of this game and would talk about it all the time. So you know what? I'm privy to some of the information. Let's go ahead and get into it. And I bought this omnibus, thinking I'm gonna try the first in this story, and I went into it with very little to no expectations, thinking it's a game tie-in book. Those usually aren't great. Usually, there are some great exceptions. Let's just have fun with it. And walked away, blown away with my experience, not just with Homeland, but with the entirety of the Dark Elf Trilogy. I mean, wow. I didn't expect it to be such a good time. Genuinely, one of my favorite fantasy books I've ever read. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making it up. You can think you can think what you will of that. I love this book because it's not just epic fight scene after epic fight scene. Yeah, there's a lot of action. I mean, the action in Legend of Drizzt is breakneck. But the characters are actually really interesting and really fascinating to me. But also, Drow society is so remarkably evil and political and conniving and treacherous, and I love it. I absolutely freaking love it. It reminds me of like an entire city of Peter Baelish's and Varys the Spiders and Cersei Lannisters from Game of Thrones. Just imagine those types of characters, those scheming kinds of characters, but it's an entire city of them, underground, and they're dark elves. That is Menzo Baranzan. And I absolutely freaking adore it. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Drizzt is the titular character, the namesake of the Legend of Drizzt series. He is the dark elf whom this trilogy is about. He is a drow, which are an underground race of elves with ebony black skin, who are, for the most part, an evil race. Okay, worshipping a spider goddess named Loth. And they revel in their wickedness. They don't necessarily consider themselves evil, but they do. It's one of those things where they know that they're vicious, but they see their surface-dwelling kin as the evil ones, and they believe that they were banished to the Underdark by these surface dwellers, and they hate them for it. And yes, that is important in this book to understand some of the things that go on. But Drizzt is different. Okay, born on the night where his family was attacking another house, he was basically born to be a sacrifice to gain Loth's favor and help him destroy this house. But he lucked out because his older brother happened to kill another older brother. This is all in the very first part of the book. It's not really a spoiler. Happened to kill another brother to help increase his position within the house, and so they spared Drizzt because his son had already been sacrificed. So they gained Loth's favor. No need to kill Drizzt as well. But right off the bat, from the day he was born, Drizzt was a little bit different. Rather than having the red eyes, the ruby eyes of an average drow, he had these purple, violet eyes that immediately stuck out. I think they actually call them, I can't remember if they call them lavender or violet, but either way, he has these beautiful purple eyes which really stick out and intrigue his sisters right from the jump. But as he gets older, he doesn't exhibit the signs of evil that are typically associated with the drow. In fact, he's rather fun-loving and spirited. And, at this point, completely ignorant to the brutal ways of his people. And as he's getting older and he's getting trained by the sword master Zach Nefane, he's learning to love combat, learning to enjoy spending time with his sword master. Not so much the tasks underneath his sisters, because Drow society is matriarchal. I forgot to mention that. So the women hold all the power, and they're very brutal to him when they're training him on how to do magic and properly address his superiors and whatnot. But he hasn't really been exposed to the evil of his people at that point. But eventually would begin to see how wicked they are, how terrible they are, through multiple different acts against multiple species, and become disillusioned with Drow society, realizing how different he was, realizing he was an outcast and a stranger in his own home world. Wants nothing more than to break free and to be his own person. And it really does combine that coming-of-age story with that family struggle, with tons of breakneck action, lots of political scheming, lots of magic, because, this is a high fantasy series. There's tons of magic. It's not like, The Witcher, where there's magic, but it's not really super prominent until it needs to be, or A Song of Ice and Fire, where the magic is very much on the lower side of things, only really brought up when it's important. And it's not even like, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, where magic definitely exists and is prominent, but not on display. In this, there's a lot of magic, tons and tons of magic. It's like a video game, or it's like Dungeons and Dragons, because that's the setting that it's in. And so there's a lot of intrigue reading from page to page. Things like the Drow ability of Fairy Fire and Globes of Darkness or Orbs of Darkness. I don't know. I want to talk all about the story and give you all the story beats, but I don't want to spoil it either, because it's such a good read. I would hate to spoil it for you. And yeah, this is a trilogy omnibus. It has the 3 Dark Elf books in here. And even then, if you read this whole trilogy, it's about the same size as reading The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, to read all 3 of these books. So, definitely not an intimidating read. Each of the books individually is a breeze to get through. But I fell in love with the Drow society. I fell in love with Menzo Berenzon. I fell in love with Drizzt's character. I fell in love with a lot of the characters I should hate. Matron Malice. I love Matron Malice. Drizzt's sisters I really enjoy. Zach Nefane. I love Zach Nefane. And there's a few other characters who we meet that, I don't want to get into, because I have a feeling they're going to have more importance in later books. I've currently only read the first 3 trilogies involved with this particular story, and I don't mean just Legend of Drizzt. I'm reading through in Ari Salvatore's recommended reading order. So I've read the Dark Elf trilogy, the Icewind Dale trilogy, and the Son of Tymora trilogy. But there's certain characters in here that I feel are going to pop up and become big players later on. So yeah, I'll talk about them when it's their time in the spotlight. For now, it's Drizzt's turn, and what a freaking character he is. Honestly, again, like I said, I'd love to go ranting and raving about everything and anything Drizzt Do'Urden, but I really, really don't want to spoil this book for you, because genuinely, I think it's an amazing, amazing read. I gave this book on Goodreads, and in this video, I'm going to give it the same score of 5 out of 5. It is that incredible of a story. I know that may seem far-fetched, because it's just game fantasy. Yeah, it's game fantasy, and you know what? It's damn good fantasy. A good story is a good story, no matter why it exists or where its origins may lie. And this is a damn good story. One that I would recommend very highly to anyone who enjoys the fantasy genre. And if you happen to be a Dungeons & Dragons geek, awesome. I'm not. Like, I played a couple times, I get it, it's fine, but I'm not a Dungeons & Dragons guy. If you are a Dungeons & Dragons guy, I can imagine this being a great time, because you'll see a lot of your mechanics in action. Now, I also do know from a few interviews that Salvatore had to kind of change things in certain books as the editions of the games changed, and Wizards of the Coast wanted the stories interpretation of magic and whatnot, and different mechanics to reflect the game. So I know that there's going to be some changes to how things operate later on. But hey, that's all the more intrigue. That's another moment I can look at and go, huh, so that's what I've been waiting for. And I love stuff like that. So yeah, Homeland by R.A. Salvatore, an absolutely incredible read, and one that I highly, highly recommend. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, I will see you later. Peace, and take care.